Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating epidemiological mystery, one that directly links young children, livestock calves, and a highly contagious microscopic stomach bug. It's basically a real-life detective story about shared environments, invisible threats, and some absolutely brilliant genetic tracing. To really grasp the massive stakes here, we have to start with this number, 184 million. Let that sink in for a second. That is the estimated number of people globally who deal with symptomatic Giardiasis every single year. We're talking watery diarrhea, intense stomach cramps, bloating, the whole shebang. But here's the catch. A huge chunk of infections are completely asymptomatic. So the true number of people carrying this bug, it's likely way, way higher.
Section 1, the invisible parasite problem. So, what exactly is getting around here and who's carrying it?
Let's clearly define what we're dealing with. We are tracking a super hardy protozoan parasite known as Giardia duodenalis. It spreads through the fecal-oral route, which, means it's shed in feces and accidentally ingested, usually through contaminated water. But the burning question for public health right now is all about zoonotic transmission. Basically, we need to know, are livestock silently passing this disease back and forth to us humans? Which brings us to Section 2, investigating farms in Bangladesh. To get to the bottom of this, an international research team set up a massive study, looking at populations living in really tight quarters with animals. The geography here is super important. They focused on 4 distinct districts in Bangladesh: Sirajganj, Pabna, Ghazipur, and Dhaka. And why there? Well, because these areas are absolutely packed with smallholder dairy farms. In these setups, humans and dairy calves are frequently sharing the exact same living space. It's literally the perfect real-world laboratory to test for this cross-species jump. The researchers basically turned into medical detectives. They collected fresh fecal samples from 299 kids, all under 14, and 699 calves under 8 months old. And what makes this so incredibly compelling is that almost all of these kids and calves lived in the exact same households. They were in constant daily contact. Moving right along to Section 3. Decoding the parasite DNA. You have the samples, sure, but how do you actually prove a microscopic parasite jumped from a calf to a kid? Well, you can't just look under a standard microscope. You gotta bring out the big guns. After extracting the total DNA from the samples, they used a highly technical process called multi-locus genotyping, or MLG. By zooming in on 3 specific genes, beta-giardin, GDH, and TPI, they could actually look at the precise genetic signatures of these bugs to see if they were an exact, perfect match. Now, before we get to the results, quick vocabulary check. Assemblage. Just think of an assemblage as a distinct family or lineage of the parasite. Historically, scientists thought these bug families were pretty picky, like some assemblages only infect humans, while others supposedly only infect cows or dogs. Keep that in mind. Okay, Section 4, the surprising infection rates. Let's look at the actual numbers they pulled from these farms. The results were pretty wild. A surprisingly high 21.1% of the children were actively infected with Giardia, compared to about 5.7% of the calves. But here is the most crucial takeaway. The vast majority of both the kids and the calves looked completely healthy. They were asymptomatic carriers, just silently shedding this parasite all over their shared environment. Now, looking at the kids' infection specifically, more than half, about 51%, carried assemblage B. Another 34% had assemblage A. That totally makes sense. A and B are the classic human infecting strains. But look at that 11.3% slice. That is assemblage E. Put a pin in that, because it is the key to this entire mystery. So, seeing all these different families brings us to the core question of this whole investigation. Are the kids and the calves actually sharing the exact same bug strains, or is it just a coincidence? Section 5, the human-calf connection. And the DNA gave us a pretty startling answer. Looking at the data side by side, the overlap is just undeniable. Zoonotic assemblage A, found in both. Assemblage B, found in both. And crucially, assemblage E was actively present in the stool samples of both the children and the calves. There's no doubt they are absolutely sharing the same families of this parasite. But here is the scientific plot twist I promised you. Remember that 11.3% of children with assemblage E? Assemblage E is traditionally known as a ruminant-specific strain. Actually, scratch that. It's classified as a livestock-only bug. It was heavily predominant in the calves. So finding it actively colonizing the digestive tracts of human children proves, without a shadow of a doubt, that these shared environments are allowing animal-specific parasites to successfully jump the species barrier. This is the first time this specific cross-species transmission of assemblage E has ever been documented in Bangladesh. Which leads us to Section 6, Global Public Health Warning. Why does this matter to you, even if you don't live on a dairy farm? It matters because of what the researchers concluded right here. Calves should thus be taken into consideration as an important reservoir for human Giardiasis. Think about it. When we live in close proximity to animals, they can act as silent reservoirs. Even if you give the humans medicine and completely cure them, if the calves in the backyard are still shedding those cysts into the soil and water, the cycle just loops right back around. So I'll leave you with this to chew on. As our global population grows and human spaces overlap more and more with agriculture, how are we going to adapt? How do we evolve our public health strategies to stop the silent, microscopic spread of zoonotic parasites from the farm straight to the family? The invisible world is constantly adapting. The question is, are we? Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer.